All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the Budget Committee meeting. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to echo what Commissioner Hutchings said. We're glad you're all here, glad there's this much interest in what's going on. Tonight is a crucial night, as all of you are probably here for the same reason, I would assume. So what we're going to do first, the Budget Committee, along with the other commissioners are here, going to work through some of our budget findings and look at some different things. So you guys will kind of get to see the underlying work that will go on into determining the property tax rate. And so we're working through the budget. We have a few things that the committee would like to discuss with the full commission while they're all here. And then after that, we'll open the floor for public comment. You guys will be able to come up and address us and give us your feedback. So if you would, just bear with us for a few minutes here. And Director Markham, if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you to explain the document that was just handed out to the full commission. And if you could just give them an idea of what they're looking at, and then we'll start opening the floor for some feedback after they've had time to look over it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. County Commissioners, what you see in front of you in the 5-page document that's stapled together that looks like this, this is the Budget Committee took the request from all the departments, made several cuts to the initial request, and then what was remaining you see in the column labeled original. That's your first column there, and as you go down there you can see salaries and benefits are on the first page, and then the next 4 pages are non-salary items. The original column and then the alternates there, A through D, also show a proposed property tax rate that would be needed to fund those items. As you can see, as you go down the page, on the first page of the salaries and benefits, we have the salary scale as proposed. We've talked about a TCRS improvement, an optional COLA longevity, and you can see which option that's included in, whether that's an original, alternate A, alternate B, alternate C, or alternate D. The different positions that are funded and what that means in each one of those alternate options. And then on the second through page 2 through 5 is the non-salary items. And these are items that we've talked about over the course of the budget process starting in January. Items that were requested of the budget from the departments of the Budget Committee. Several of these have been either eliminated or reduced. And you can see there the ones that are not funded in any of the options. The ones that have been reduced, those aren't shown on here, but the reduced amount is. And you can see the estimated cost that would be to the budget for the next period. So this is just for the county general fund. On the page 3, I do want to point out under EMS, there's some options there about the vehicles, whether that be a truck, a new ambulance, or remounting, and how those are potentially funded and how that looks there. But if there's an X in the box, then that means it's included. If there's not an X, then it's not included under that option. And then I think you also received a separate page that has the estimated tax rates that correspond to the top sheet there, and how that those tax pennies would be dispersed amongst all the different funds of the county.
Thank you, Mr. Markham. Does the commission have a good understanding there of the document? Any questions for Mr. Markham?
While y'all are looking over those, I do want to point out that like, the original option and option C are probably actually the only real viable options, simply because, like the EMS, like they're running long hours, long shifts, which those two options will fund 4 more positions, so they can run some more trucks. I mean, we've got ambulance drivers that's running, you know, how long a day are they running, some of them sometimes? Huh?
14, 16 hours per day.
Okay. And, you know, they're, you know, having to, at the end of a 12-hour shift, having to make a trip to Nashville or something here, you know, and it's just simply due to, you know, the population and the growth in the county. You know, these are positions that we feel that they're definitely going to need. And then it's the same with the deputies. There's 4 positions for deputies. You know, it's just...
And the mechanics.
Yeah.
One deputy per shift is
Yeah,
what that's for.
1 deputy per shift. And then also adding a mechanic, which, well, the mechanic is actually in all of the things, simply because they just aren't able to keep up with the demand for the maintenance that's being needed to be done for the county vehicles. And, you know,
If you look at what we've titled original, that is where the budget committee left off after its last round of cuts. So that's where we are right now. And you see the tax rate that would go with it, $1.70. Option A, to TK's point, that's dropping those 10 new employees and decreasing $1 an hour to the proposed pay scale for county employees. Option B is dropping the 10 employees, but adding the $1 back to the county pay scale. Option C is adding the 10 employees, but dropping off the $1 per hour. And then option D is adopting the certified rate of 121. That would obviously drop the pay scale completely, drop the 10 employees, and it would offer a 3% COLA to all county employees.
and this is an estimated certified rate. That's nothing, that's just what we think it'll be.
And Director Markham, did you go over the county general capital? Did you mention that?
I did not, no, sir. On the estimated tax rates that you see, the single sheet, we would be proposing 123 pennies of the 170 to go to county general fund. That would be for operations. 3 pennies be set aside for capital purposes. We've talked historically about putting funds into debt service, and that over the past couple of years, we've taken funds out of debt service. Right now, we're at a position where we will, at the end of this month, we'll have one debt payment or one debt issuance that we'll be paying on. The local option sales tax from the school system that's going into that fund to pay that is sufficient to make those payments. So the proposal would be to set this aside in the general fund to allow it to be used for capital purposes. If you put money into the debt service fund, it's restricted for that forever. So if you wanted to pay cash for something and you had all the money in the debt service fund, you couldn't do it. All you could do is use it to pay debt. So this would allow us to do some capital items long-term and to save up for that, and that money would roll forward from year to year. Also, if we needed to transfer funds to debt service in order to make those payments, we can do that. We could transfer to debt service, we can't transfer from debt service. So that would be the thought there.
You could handle that in like a year-end cleanup.
Correct.
And keep in mind, all interest that is earned on every account by state mandate goes into debt service. So the fund is still going to grow this year, even if we allocate 0 pennies toward it.
How many pennies did we put in last time? We put them in, Chad.
We had 2, and then in 25, we took them all out, so there's no tax pennies going into debt service this fiscal year.
And would it be a fair assumption to say, with the new penny value, we could maybe put 1? If we needed to knock down a penny for the general, I know it would just be in general capital, and hopefully we don't have to touch that, but I'm just looking, scraping per se.
Yeah, I mean, so,
We know the penny's not doubled, but
right, those capital funds would be there in the event that we, it's kind of like adding to a rainy day fund.
It's basically, it's just another name for what we've always done for the last forever, is we put money in that debt service fund to pay for buildings, jails, whatever we had to do. This is basically the same thing, it's just it's a capital fund. So
Correct.
You could pay out of that fund versus having to go and borrow the money and pay for it out of.
Right, so we would still have funds in the
Fund.
debt service fund to pay the debt, but we'd also be able to pay, some upfront cost out of this
So I
to
guess-
lower our debt payment.
Historically, like 8 years ago, I can remember at one point, we had 10 cents. We had 10 pennies going to debt service. And like the options, you're either showing 3 or 4 pennies going to this capital fund. So in my mind, it's still pretty conservative based on what we've done in the past to fund that debt service.
Yes, and we're still earning,
There's a balance there now.
yes, there's a balance there now. The interest earnings on all the funds, excluding the child nutrition fund, accrue to the debt service fund. And we're still earning a good interest rate at this point. So I think that fund is sufficient as long as we're not issuing debt. And we all know that if we do have something that large to issue debt for, that's going to take some time. It's not something we're going to do in, 3 months or something. And the funds that are in there right now are sufficient for that. But this would set that money aside and allow us to use it to pay, if we had a $10 million project and we wanted to pay, $1 million down on it, we could, whereas if we put that in the debt service fund, we couldn't. We'd have to borrow the $10 million and pay the interest on that. So it's trying to help look at that in both ways.
Chad, I think that interest rate's about 4% right now.
That's correct, yeah.
So one of the questions I had, I know last year, with where everything was, we passed the budget last year with a deficit. 400-ish.
Almost 500,000.
500,000. And we pulled money from the general purpose school fund last year to get to that point. And
debt services.
And debt service. So this, it looks like, I'm trying to figure out where that was. Is it applicable? Like, how many pennies did we, in last year's budget, how many pennies had we allocated? Because I know the options now are showing 40.
Yeah, so and of course, the pennies will change based on where we think the certified rate's gonna be. But what you see on option D, where it's 85 to the general fund and 36 to the general purpose school fund, that's just based on a percentage. So right now, about 70% of the property tax goes to the general fund. The other percentage goes to the general purpose school fund. And so that's just taking that $1.21 and doing the percentage there. So we took 2 pennies out of the general purpose school fund last year. This would be putting about 4 pennies back into the general purpose school fund because we've taken out of it over the past little bit.
That answered my question.
Yeah,
Basically, I mean, I'm not saying it was wrong what we did, but it's almost like we're putting it back.
Correct.
We took it to help us last year, and now we're putting it back.
Correct.
And you recommend leaving the new pennies in the school fund because of the new law?
I think that it's important that we look at that, the TSEF funding. was helpful on the front end. I'm concerned about the long-term viability of that funding from the state.
Also, to correct me if I'm wrong here, Chad, but the Highway Public Works Fund, if we're adding 2 pennies there, there is a maintenance of effort that has to be met there over a 5-year average,
Yes,
correct?
yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've never historically put property tax funds into the Highway Public Works Fund. That fund has always been sustained off of gasoline and motor fuel tax, which comes from the state. So this the recommendation here on all of these, except for option D, is to either put 2 or 4 pennies into that Highway Public Works Fund. The reasoning behind that is if we adopted the pay scale as presented, it would be about a $200,000 increase in the Highway Public Works Fund expenditures, and so 2 pennies would, not quite, but it would help fund that. The thought process by going to 4 would be for paving, to allocate some more funds for paving. But that does create a maintenance of effort issue similar. It creates a maintenance of effort issue like it does for the general purpose school fund, but it's calculated completely different. The maintenance of effort for the highway fund is a 5-year average of actual revenues, whereas the general purpose school fund is just a budgetary
And I think,
estimate.
is Jerry here? Is Jerry Sawyer here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I think we allocate about $700,000 for paving currently. So for every cul-de-sac, for every subdivision, for every new home that's built, those roads are being built up to spec and adopted by the county. And we haven't added funds to the Highway Public Works in quite a while. There's almost 900 miles of county road in White County, so we give Jerry about 0.5% of the money he needs to pave the roads in White County. It'd take him about 150 years to do every road in White County, so I think that's where the reasoning came from there.
And we're adding new roads. We're
Yeah.
adding 2 tonight. So every few months, we're adding new roads for new subdivision.
So I guess another question, and, have we looked at percentages? So with the different options, so your original option, which is what you said where y'all left off, and then the A, B, and C, in my opinion, option B doesn't fund county government. But your A, B, and C options, what are those percentages? Because I can see that our rate now is $2.05. And the original option where y'all left off is $1.70. But it's $1.70 based on it's 25% of the new assessment.
Yeah,
So how does that, do we know how that breaks down as far as percentages? So basically, we're assuming we won't have a certified tax rate until after we are required to pass this budget. So we have to pass this budget before the end of June, and then we won't get that certified rate until after that point. But your estimate is $1.21 is being revenue neutral. So each one of these options, so like the $1.21 versus the $1.70, I guess I can do that math.
Yeah, so, if Mr. Jones is with us tonight, I think he would give our blessing to assume that the rate's gonna be $1.21, based on the calculations. So if 170 is the rate that is looked at, that would be a 27% increase over the certified rate. Now,
27%. 27?
27, yeah. So, keep in mind that will affect our public.
Because I guess, and the reason I'm bringing that up is like, okay, when I got my thing in the mail Saturday, my property values increased 100%. And so initially, and that's some of the questions and the calls and stuff that I had today were based on the fact that I think the people that talked to me were anxious about seeing a 100% increase in their property tax because the property value increased 100% like mine did. And that's why I was trying to call out the percentage So realistically, with that original option, you're looking at a 27% increase. It's higher.
Yeah, and, you know, for those in the crowd that are trying to keep up, Commissioner Mason alluding to it, if you got your document in the mail and it was a 100% increase on your reappraisal value, your property tax bill will only go up 100% if the county commission stays at our current rate, which is $2.05 per every $100 of assessed value. For your bill not to be affected, or to be affected minimally, we would need to adopt a rate of $1.21. That would mean no new revenue to the county. So, you know, we would have to decide what services need to be cut and how we can be more efficient. But for every penny, and we determine everything in the amount of a penny. So currently, right now, we have 205 pennies. That's where the $2.05 comes from. And the value of a penny is about $56,000. So when you hear us say pennies right now, we're referring to your property tax goes up 1 penny, and we have $56,000 to pour into government services. So if we go down to $1.21, we keep the same amount of revenue, but your bill will be minimally affected, or not at all. So if we, every cent we go above 121, if we go to 122, 123, the more we go up, the more you'll see your bill actually affected. But the appraisal document that you got is not a bill. And so that's what we're hashing through tonight. It's only a bill if we stay at 205.
There's one question, Tom.
Yeah.
I've watched all meetings lately, you've been saying a penny's worth 96,000.
That will, under the new,
Saying it's worth 56.
under the new rate, under the new appraisal numbers, our penny will now jump to 97,000. That's why we can go down to 121 and maintain the same amount of revenue, because there's a calculation that gives us, and we determine, you'll hear that term a lot tonight, you'll hear us say the word penny. That's how we determine our actual revenue. We do it in pennies.
He pays mine, it was, mine was 59,000 this year, and he pays mine at 140,000. Now, how will that work?
Well, we're going to try to figure it out tonight. Yeah, give us,
The fat hogs will get fatter, and the slim hogs will get slim. You know, that's how
I'm
I
going to look at it.
So I can conservatively say, for the people that I've spoke to today, spoke to throughout this whole reappraisal process, that 156 is still too high.
And you're using the number 156 because of option A,
From
correct?
alternate A, yes.
Yeah.
Can it be explained that, and you may have, but it may just need to be reiterated, that 121 would change nothing?
Yeah, so option D,
Very minimal.
do you mean to the public or constituents or to us as far as
Everybody in
services?
this room.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, Chad put together option D, and that's a 3% COLA increase for all county employees and every other budget request except for the necessities that we can't control, such as fuel, drug cost. Everything else would be cut from the budget.
No new employees,
Correct.
no pay raise, just a 3% cost of living. So the original option that we've listed at the 170, that's about a 15.5% pay raise on average for the county employees.
Which will put us in line with other counties and other areas that we're competing, where we're losing employees to. This came from the department heads, and they all came to us and said, this is what they need in order to keep their people, and the good ones. And we've made it very competitive. Chad's done a fantastic job about trying to do a lot of research and look. So we've kind of crossed out all the non-necessity things. The majority of this at 170 is nothing more than taking care of the county employees and emergency services.
And,
a few other little things.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Mason, I misspoke. That would be a 40% increase, not a
Option A would
27%.
be
Yeah,
increase.
on option A, I'm sorry.
So just to your point, I did a little bit of math, just because I know where they're at, and I work with, he's taking SRO in the school that's protecting our kids. They're at $20.47. And this original with the whatever it is, 15.45 or whatever, it's about $3 an hour. So I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it's not. And then when you drive through town, you got these guys that are in the schools protecting our kids, and you drive through town, there's a billboard up there that says, I can drive 28 miles to Bledsoe and start at $61,000 a year and get a $5,000 signing bonus. It's hard to keep those folks. It's hard to keep them wanting to do that work.
So Commissioner Mason, you brought up employee compensation, so Director Markham's going to hand out a document. This document is what is composed in the original at the top. This, if you look at all those numbers, what's been proposed here is to take our county employees and put them into groups. It kind of makes sense to try to get more congruence among the county employees. What's on this document is about a 15.5% increase in county pay among all county employees. That's not to say that everyone would get 15 across the board, but it's an average of 15 for the full-time employees, and it's an average of just over $5,000 a year per county employee. Also inside there is a longevity bonus proposal that would be about $188,000 in fiscal year '26. And that's a $100 a year for every year of service that you've been employed with White County.
So you just said the 170 right there is we give most of the full-time employees a 15% raise?
That's correct. Not everyone would get 15, but it would average 15. This document here, it coincides with the original that's at the 170.
And it's experience-based too.
It is experience-based, and the experience can come from relevant experience determined by HR. And you could be coming from another county, another government entity. You wouldn't have to be employed only with White County.
So in my SRO example, if you had an SRO that had been an SRO for 20 years in Florida and moved up here and retired and was an SRO for us, their experience counts.
Yeah, their entry-level pay would increase. You can see over on the right-hand column, your example would fall in the 10-plus years category.
But I want to add, that wouldn't count for longevity. Longevity is just
Just experience.
Chad, on option A, it says reduce general pay by $1. What is that number out of the, right here, it's 2.2 million for all that. What is $1 across the board taken away from that? Sorry to put you right there.
That also removes those 10 positions as well. Option A does. EMS, and sheriff's deputies. And so wasn't it about 10%? I don't think we talked about.
Now, I don't want to keep going down a rabbit hole, but I'm just like I'm trying to figure the math out in my head and make comparisons and stuff. In that same example that I used, if you take that SRO with 10 plus years, that's going to put him at about $46,080 a year. That's at your original option. So that puts it brings it up to $24 an hour from where they are now. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is I understand that you guys have worked hard to try to build something in to make it so that we're competitive and we keep some of the county employees that we've got now, but it's still, even doing this, there's still a gap. There's still a large gap compared to what's out there.
Yeah, but that's at 170.
Right, that's at the 170 option.
We probably spent 3 hours the meeting earlier this month or last month, that's all run together, but we analyzed from DeKalb County, from Fentress County, there's 3 or 4 counties, Cumberland County, I think.
City of Sparta.
We analyzed all of their pay scales that are comparable to us, and this is just getting them to average.
Yeah, basic.
To basic. And And you know they're going through, those county bodies are going through the same thing we are.
And that's at 170, and I heard somebody say earlier that they couldn't even do 150. And I mean, we've got to, this is where, I mean, we're talking about our employees, or,
That's what you're talking about, but I'm fairly certain the majority sitting up here is not gonna vote for anywhere near close to that, David. That may be where we need to start.
I would speak for yourself.
For myself.
yeah.
Don't
Well,
speak, don't.
and I'll back him up on it right there. If this 170 right here is, I can see right now, that ain't gonna work. I understand the the employees for the EMS and that right there, but it just ain't gonna work.
So
But
the,
that's why we're here to have these conversations.
Where do we come from?
We've spent about 20 hours working on this to compile the best thing that we could, and I'll say, with all the commissioners who are sitting right there, there's only been a couple of y'all that's come to our meetings, and some of them that are questioning what we've done, have not been to any of them. It would have been helpful to have that information, that feedback 15, 20 hours ago when we were working on this, so we spend a lot of time and effort on this. We're not saying it's the right thing, but we need feedback from you guys too.
And then David, you asked me right there, what do you cut back on our areas? Like a Parks and Rec director right there is, this, whatever it was on here right there is, I didn't vote for that right there, it's because we can't afford it right now. There's no sense in having a position when you can't afford it. To me, that's just my personal opinion right there.
I understand.
Just like a full-time EMA director right there is. I don't think we need one of those right there is. It's just not in the budget, right? I mean, it's just not in the budget for right now.
But a lot of those positions make up their own salary in grant money when they are full positions.
And I understand that.
That's the part that looks at that.
Yeah.
It's
Just
not,
like the
it's
codes, just like the
gotta come.
codes. I didn't vote for it either right there, it's because we can't afford it right here. But still, yet you're gonna put it on the taxpayers to pay those people when it shouldn't be like it right there.
That being said, our county is growing,
And I understand that.
and there is no way we can stop it. If we don't add these positions, put in these directors, add these jobs, it's only gonna get worse for us.
But look at it right
I
here.
mean,
We've got about 30 years.
I understand what you're saying. I don't want to pay taxes. I would love to stay right here at this 121. But it is not possible to stay at 121. You go down here to Walmart and prices is going up. Okay? They're there to make money. We've got to make our money. This is how we make our money. I mean,
And I understand.
all these people, I know that they don't want to pay it, but in order for us to survive as a county, we have to raise our tax.
I'm pretty
So-
sure none of these people out here want a 40% raise in their property taxes. And I'm pretty sure this is the biggest crowd I've ever seen.
I'm not
come.
saying that we can do, we have to do 40%.
I wish the sales tax would have passed, and then this wouldn't have, that would have helped.
Exactly, that's what I just.
The sales
said.
tax would have saved 10 pennies right now.
so, let's, hold on just a second. So, I think Commissioner Austin, as a member of the Budget Committee, is doing what he's supposed to do in defending the work that he's put in. And Commissioner Brewington, you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're looking out for the constituents. I think the point of the meeting tonight and getting us all to stay is to try to figure out the middle ground and where you guys fall in this, so the next Budget Committee meeting, we know what to do. It is my opinion that we could pull back several non-salaried items, things that do not fall under maintenance of effort, and we could peel back some pennies. But ultimately, if we want to make significant dents into where we are currently, we will have to affect employee compensation. You know, for every 1% raise that we give, it's $100,000. That is the only line item that is significant enough for us to really trim back. The Budget Committee has heavily focused on the people, the employees, the human resources. So we just need to know your direction, we need you to give us direction so we can go back and we can start trimming some of this back and find a rate that can be agreed upon.
You are correct on that right there. The 121 is a little too low, but 170 is too high.
If I had an opinion on it, on a hill to die on, I would want money focused towards current employee salaries.
And that's the biggest piece of it. I mean, that's really the only, I mean, the rest, when you're talking about, that's $2.2 million of it is the salary scale. I mean, the other stuff you're talking about, when you start talking about $45,000 or something in
Right,
comparison to
yeah, that's-
2.2 million, I mean, that's where it's at. When you talk about the difference between $1.70 and $1.56, it's employee pay.
Yeah.
And when you sit and you talk about, when you got a guy in the sheriff's department or an EMS who is a top level guy, he could absolutely leave today and go and get a $10,000 a year raise somewhere else, we're not gonna sustain that in this community. If we want to have, fire, police, and EMS protection in this community, then we're gonna have to pay these people that are doing it, or we're not gonna be able to keep them. And we're gonna continue to fight the revolving door of training, hiring and training, which all costs money too. I mean, just from a business standpoint, it doesn't make good business sense to keep turning employees over and basically taking what you can get and hoping that you get by till next year. I'm with TK, I don't wanna pay it either, but I also know what's reality.
So how close could we get if we didn't add one single new position? What would roughly that number be?
It's option B.
That'd be that
Yeah.
option B.
But
Hey,
There's still-
Hey,
I caution that a little bit because we have growth.
Option,
And with growth comes more ambulances, more sick people, more crimes, more police officers.
Commissioner White, it looks like you might want to look at option A and B. So option A would be the dropping the 10 employees and decreasing the $1 an hour.
A still has EMA director, Parks and Rec director, office assistant, clerical position, front desk reception, and 2 mechanics.
So those 10 employees that we're referencing, Director Markham, that's the 4 deputies, 4 EMS paramedics, and what are the other 2? Is that Parks and Rec?
I calculated out the Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec director, and,
Just keep in mind on that Parks and Rec director, there's two avenues that we're looking at here. One of them is the grant that we're applied for, that will fund that. The second one is even if you take that out, it's not gonna affect the bottom line because 2 pennies automatically go to Parks and Recreation. So it's not gonna, yeah, so it's not gonna save anything. I mean, you can roll that into your savings for Parks and Recreation, but it's not going to affect the overall bottom line.
and in central maintenance, they need those people. It's gonna save the county.
They all need.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is you wind up, if something tears up and you don't have the manpower to work on it, and you wind up having to go to a private source and pay $150, $200 an hour on somebody working on it.
That's what we're doing now. Yeah.
I don't know how we can.
So Commissioner Cope, what is your suggestion? Are you at 121, you want no raises at all?
I'm not big on no tax raises, that's for sure. Never have been, not gonna sit here and say I am.
But along the line, if somebody hadn't done it at some point, then these guys would be making $4 an hour. I mean, at some point, you have to have the revenue to pay for the services that you have.
Back to
I mean, it's the reality of it. It has to, if you have a police department, you have a sheriff's department, you have an EMS, it has to be paid for.
go ahead, Chad.
And if you
No,
don't
sorry.
generate more revenue to pay for it, then they don't make any more money, and society outpaces it to the point where nobody's gonna do it anymore.
So Commissioner White, if you look at option B, dropping the 10 employees, the question you were asking earlier, that would be $1.58. 158. And that's taking out the other positions in addition to those 10.
Thank you.
And then it would also be, maybe for me and the way my brain works, like, let's say my appraisal is $100,000. And I pay, the rate is based on 25% of that, which is $25,000, right? So what's the difference between like your option B and your original?
So Chad,
What's that difference in my tax bill? Because that's what
Mr.
we're really
Jones
talking
shared
about.
with us that the average house was valued at 150 and some change. That was the median, the average, what was that?
In 2020, the base house is valued at 130.
130.
In 2025, the base house is valued at 248.2.
248. So at 248.2 on 170, the increased tax would be like a 350
It was like, yeah, 300.
or $80 would be the 380, I think.
Right, and then, so what's the difference between that and like option B? Because that's what you're talking about, real money. The reason I bring that up is we're sitting up here talking about pennies, but really, I mean, how much more is that check gonna be that I'm gonna have to write?
So we have an example that was given to us based on a home that was appraised at $162,800 in 2024. In 2025, the appraisal went to $315,100. So the assessed amount was $40,700, went to $78,775. In the original auction at $1.70, the person with the $315,000 house would pay an additional $386 in taxes annually.
Okay.
If you drop to option A at $156, it's $275. Option B at $161 is $315. Option C at $163 is $330. So all options is within $100.
That's
For a year.
For a year.
That's the reason I asked that question, is because like, when you look at it like that, and then you look at it, then you look at the big picture, and you look at being able to actually get everybody kind of even with everybody around us, or not, what are you really talking about? I mean, it's not apples to apples. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense.
No, I get what you're saying, and that's the thing, is like.
How much of
when
an
you spell
impact
it
am
out-
how much of an impact am I gonna feel versus what you are or are not able to do for a county employee? Like for somebody in the sheriff's department, like if you got a guy here who's making $10,000 a year less than the guy in the next county over, if my impact is $200 a year.
Less than $100 a year almost.
Okay, whatever it is, you see what I'm saying? How does that play out? Because really, we can talk about all this other stuff all night long, but that's what it all comes down to, and that's what it's came down to. I'm going into my 8th year on the commission, and we've talked about this for 8 years. Every year, it's the same thing. Our people that protect us and serve us in the county don't make enough money. They don't make as much money as the counties around us, and we've never been able to do anything about it without doing something crazy. And we pulled money out of debt service. We took money out of the general school fund. We've done everything just to try to get to a point where we can do a 3 or 4% raise. A 3% raise on a $20 an hour job is pennies. It doesn't really help them when they're underpaid versus everybody around us already.
And why would you add 4 more positions to it? Why not pay them more?
How many do we have per shift now? We got 4 on shift right now for the entire county
There's 3 ambulances on any given time.
now.
How many miles are on those ambulances?
The newest one's got 80-something thousand, the oldest one's have around 300.
So on page, Chad, I have a question on this EMS on page 3 about the trucks, now that you brought that up. On this alternate A, B, and C, it's got split 2 years. Are we talking about splitting that up, as in doing it part of the budget this year and part of the budget next year, or is that my
Yes,
understanding?
yeah, that's not ideal because there's such a long lead time on those that you really need to be able to order it ahead of time, but yes, that would be, and that's how we've historically approached that, is actually we would budget for, 2 remounts, and then we would use those 2 remounts to buy an ambulance, but now it's kind of biting us because we're running behind with the lead times.
And Commissioner Golden, we're not gonna get them this year regardless, so,
Do you have
yeah.
response time? Do y'all have response time data? Do we have that response time data?
Response to incidents?
But like, and the reason I say it, if you got 4, I know, like if I'm down on 3 Island Road, down there where I live, if somebody breaks in my house and I call with 4 deputies on shift, how long is it gonna take somebody to get there?
Or how busy we are.
Depending on where they're at.
We hadn't had that deputy position, I don't think, in over 20 years. And you've had this,
What was that? We've not added a deputy position in 20 years, and we've grown, I know we've had 30% growth in the last 5 years.
I would like to add on that we're saying that we're responding with 4 deputies. Because of the pay and the way things are, we're lucky if we have 3. Just to add that out there. There's most days that we're running on 3 deputies right now because we can't keep people. So.
Young man,
I
I'd like
think,
to comment, and I need to get out of here. I'd like to make one comment.
We'll make an exception for you. Introduce yourself and then.
My name's Paul Golden. Other than the county employees in here, how many people in here, show of hands, that would like for their taxes to be raised over 20%? Not the county employees. How many of you want your taxes raised over 20%? Can I see a show of hands? That's what I thought. That's all I need to tell you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Serious problem.
Thank you, sir. I think, it'll be on the front page of the paper.
That's it.
I think, based on my call volume today, I think most of the county agrees with him, too.
Mr. Chairman.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I guess if I had a realm that just looked, that could be commensurate to people that's called me, some of the basic conversations we've had today would be a 121, but 4 in the salary scale into it. Because that would roughly be 22 pennies, correct?
Yeah, so, yeah, go ahead.
If you're at all the 121, but add the salary scale to it.
Yeah, and that, Chad, that salary scale, does that also include the longevity pay, $188,000? Okay, so that would be about 20, yeah, that would be about 22 pennies. That includes the document that you guys got, an average 15.25% increase of pay among the county employees, plus the longevity scale as well, and the experience
That's just
incentive.
And here's the flip side. I'll give you the flip side. Here's the flip
Let's hear it.
side to it. Based on the calls I've had, the conversations I've had, any increase is unacceptable. Okay?
Yeah.
I think that's the general consensus in the room.
That's-
Any increase is unacceptable. So, with that being said, I feel like it's my job to do the right thing for everybody in this county. And so if we're gonna do the right thing, do the right thing. And let's pay these people that are taking care of us and protecting us like we appreciate it. And do it. Because any increase is not gonna be acceptable. If you go to 121, if 121 is a certified rate, if we set it as a commission at 125, we're gonna get lynched. I'm just telling you, any increase is gonna be unacceptable. My position is we need to do the right thing and do what we need to do to protect the whole county. This isn't something, or we can keep kicking it. We've kicked it down the road. We've kicked this can for 8 years. We've kicked this can because I don't want somebody to get mad at me, or I don't want this one to be mad at me, or whatever. And we keep kicking this can, and we're not doing right by the people that we employ. So that's my position. Let's do the right thing and do what we're supposed to do and pay people what they deserve and be done with it. Because if it's, any increase is unacceptable. I don't want to pay any more either. But I also want these guys to come, if somebody breaks in my house and I call 911, I want somebody to come. Or if I fall over with a heart attack, my wife calls 911, I want somebody to come. I want Mike and them to come down there and get me and try to save me. And if we want that, we gotta pay for it. And we gotta pay for it like they deserve to be paid. Or else they're gonna keep hemorrhaging out to these other counties around us that are doing it. I'm not gonna say, I'm off my soapbox.
No, I mean, it's a good synopsis. I would say, from my perspective, I have one goal tonight, and that is to lay the groundwork to be able to pass the budget on June the 16th. So we need the feedback from you guys. Worst case scenario is, there's a group of you guys that want to stay at the certified rate of 121. There's a group that's willing to go much, much higher, and then there's a group in the middle, and we don't have a majority vote on June the 16th. So you've made it pretty clear where you're at, and I think Commissioner Coates made it clear, Brewington as well. But we need the feedback because we really would like to have this budget passed by July 1st. So if there's any other feedback similar to Commissioner Mason's, I'd welcome it.
Commissioner Daniels, any feedback? Rogers?
More in line with Dakota probably, Commissioner. I mean, my problem is, they certainly need it. We shouldn't be doing it all at once and taxpayer hit with a big increase. That's our fault. We should have been doing something all along. And, you know.
I agree with that. But we get the same answer every year. I don't want taxes. I don't want taxes. No new taxes, no new taxes. And we'll get it next year. And we've not done that. The taxes have not been raised in executive.
2020. Last appraisal.
Last appraisal was 2020. It was kept the same. It was kept at 205 at that time.
16 cents.
Tax rate's been the same since 2016.
So it's
16 cents in 2020.
hindsight's always 2020. We should have been raising them 2 or 3, 4 cents a year every year. But any tax raise is unacceptable.
Especially when it's 80-some%.
It's not 80%. We're looking at 40%.
Some people, I mean, I put on my tax paper, and I'm just curious on how you're assessing these appraisals. I mean, I think everybody is, because there's no movie. We didn't.
Well,
Across the board.
so, just a couple things for the public. We'll hold off on public comment until we hash, because we don't really have a response to give you guys if you come up right now, anyway. And then, secondly, I would just say that the county is not involved in the reappraisal. The county commission is not involved in the reappraisal process. What I would say is that percentage you see on your bill only will be the percentage your tax bill goes up if we keep our certified rate. And I haven't heard anybody, or keep our current rate of 205.
Was that number?
Yeah, I would defer to Mr. Jones and others on that one, but let's hold off on that and try to get some more common.
That's true. Some people's raised 40%, mine was 109, my next door neighbor was 150% increase
Yeah.
over last year. Last year they raised mine 9%. That's fine, I understand that, but when you bump it up 109% over last year's raising, to me, it's looking like sleight of hand. I'm not faulting an employee needing a job, us needing EMS. All that stuff costs money, and I fully understand it. What I really would like is for Mr. Jones to send out another letter that shows how he calculated. What formula did you use?
Well, all of that calculation has to do with the number, the size of the house, the number of bathrooms, bedrooms. All of that is calculated by the state. He looks at it, if it has this, and this, okay, this, and this, and that's how he calculates it.
So
What is in
let's stay on task, or we're gonna be here all night. There is an equalization board, or assessors here tonight. I've never known of him to not speak to anyone that had any questions. Let's stay on task, and then we'll have public comment in just a little bit. So, feedback, I think we were in the middle of,
Yeah, I'm gonna be somewhere in that range of between D and A. I think there's some tweaking to be done.
anybody else? Ms. Cole? Any other thoughts? Questions for Ms. Markham, Mr. Markham, and questions for the committee?
I got one, talking about the county employees, what kind of percent raise have they gotten in the last 10 to 15 years? Has anybody ever heard of a 15 or 16% raise?
No, last year was 3%.
And then the years before, after that, right there, it was like 3 or 5 or something like that.
I think,
Yeah, we've done, a couple of years we didn't do anything.
I think 1 year since I've been on the commission, there was a 0. And then some 3 to 5 would be traditional, speaking historically, at least since I've been on the
So
commission.
you're telling me that this 170 right here is, these employees would get a 15 to 60% raise?
Yeah, so, I mean, we certainly can trim that back. And I think that's where the committee would
To me
start.
personally, that's really insane, unheard of. But I mean, but that's good though, if you can give it.
And the problem goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago, where Kane's point was very valid. Because we get in this position, and like, if you haven't been on the budget committee before, you need to. Because what happens is these guys sit for hours and they're pulling a penny here, a penny here, a penny there, a penny here, just to squeeze everything out to get to a point where you get to 3%. And then you look around and it's still nowhere close to where everybody else is. And because it's like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're not gonna do it, we're not gonna do it. And so we kick the can down the road to the next year, kick the can down the road to the next year, kick the can down the road.
When they got a 3%, they should have been getting a 6 or 8%.
So when you wind up, after 8 or 10 years, you wind up, now we're so far behind that these guys can't keep good quality people anymore. And so it's like, at some point, you've got to fix it. At some point, you got to make it right and do the right thing.
At some point, you got to figure out which employees need it, which ones don't.
I'm not I wish that we were in a situation like a business where you pay based on merit and all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, government doesn't operate that way as much as I'd like it to.
If it was the average of 15%, then it sounds like it was that way. Somebody was getting more and somebody was getting less, so why not bring the average down a little bit, save some, and put it to the first responders that everybody's still might need.
Those are the salaries we're looking at increasing.
And I think that y'all did that. There's a ton of work that has happened that we don't see.
Does the committee have any other questions for the rest of the commission? Give us just 1 second, because I think we're
doing public comments at the
I think
very
the-
end.
It's just a question.
Yeah, I think-
If you've ever considered impact fees for new construction.
We don't mean to laugh, but
I'm sorry, I don't know.
we have for years, and basically we're told it's illegal.
State of Tennessee will not let you do that.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. I know in Florida you can do it, I didn't know about it. Thank you.
We have definitely considered that highly, and if we can.
If you'll grab one of us after, we can detail, it's based on your percentage growth on your census, and we don't fall into the category where we can do a traditional permit fee. So it's tied to your census information, but if you'll grab one of us after, and give you a little more.
So, Chad, on this right here, for EMA director, you've got a totally different amount than over here. Why is that?
That's the difference in the additional cost. This one would show the additional cost from where he's a part-time now, and this one would show like the annual salary that they would go
Okay.
to, yeah.
Thank you.
And that, you'll see that in maybe on a couple of different things.
Okay.
This number might not make a lot of sense, but it's
Right.
the additional cost.
That was my question. Thank you.
I think one of the biggest questions that I've got today is where's the money going, what's it gonna do? And I know we can see that here, but I think I'm gonna stick pretty hard with the 22 pennies towards the employees, so that way we can say anything that was above the certified rate went straight to the employees that serve our county right now. I think that's where I'm gonna stay. So that way everybody knows where every penny goes. Very openly, very transparent.
So my only question there would be, outside of that 22 pennies, everything that's a non-salaried item would need to be,
There's a couple non-salary
Okay.
items that's included on the 121. Gas, fuel.
correct, I mean, let's call it the essentials.
The essentials,
Yeah.
yes. And that would be a very large investment into our county employees. That's well-deserved. Very straightforward.
Well, it's great to give our current county employees a raise, and we can pay them more and say, hey, you don't have enough staff, so work 20 hours a day, we're just gonna pay you more money to do that. You're gonna burn out you're gonna burn out the ones that are there, and they're gonna quit because they're burnt out.
I don't disagree.
And then we're not gonna have any trucks or cars for them to drive in.
Mr. Chairman, do you
Yes,
mind if
go
I ask Mike Kerr to tell us how many runs
Yeah.
per shift that he has compared? You've given that number in the past, but I don't
Do you,
remember.
you could come up, I believe this microphone's on. This is our EMS director, Mike Kerr.
But the question is, how many runs per shift or per truck do our employees do compared to surrounding counties?
We are the busiest ambulance service in the Upper Cumberland. Not by number of calls, of course, Putnam County will run 30,000 calls. They've got 14 trucks. We run 7,000 calls, we have 3 trucks. Any given day, during the day, there's 3 ambulances in this county. The hospital sends somebody to Nashville at least 2 or 3 times a day, that's 1 truck out of the county. We have 2 nursing homes, we have doctor's appointments, and we have everybody that calls 911. So that's 7,000 calls a year, so at any given time, there may not be no ambulance in this county. So if you have a heart attack, you have a stroke, you're in a car wreck, you may have to wait for an ambulance because we don't have it. We've done our very best to keep up with what we've got, we've worked, we do everything we can. We piece these trucks together, we do everything we can to make them run. We can't do it without trucks, we can't do it without people. I know personally, Putnam County works 44 employees, 14 of those are White County residents that was trained here with me. And that's not counting the ones that's at the cab, the ones that's in Van Buren, the ones that's in Cumberland County, because they can go make more money.
I mean, we're a good training
So,
facility.
it's gonna come down to what's your health rate. If you have a heart attack and you call us and we can't come, what's the first thing you're gonna say? Where was you at? And if I don't have somebody to send, I'm sorry, I don't have somebody to send. I don't know that exact number, I'm sorry, but how much per truck, but we are Warren County runs about 200 calls per truck per year. I think ours is like 500 or something. And Buren County runs 1,000 calls. They have 2 trucks. Cumberland County has 14 or 16 trucks. They run about 20,000 calls. Putnam runs about 300 to 400 calls per truck. We run 500 and something calls per truck per year. The trucks stay on the road 24/7. They work this week and they work the next week. No break. And we do our very best, I promise you. I pinch every penny I can pinch. I work everybody as hard as I can work them to get calls to people. It's getting to that point now. Your help worth us not having a truck or employees. I'm losing 3 this month to other counties. Getting nobody to replace them.
Mr. Chairman, my point to that, asking that question was, just taking care of the employees we have is definitely a must, but there are some departments that need help to provide us the basic essential services that we require in this county.
That's the reason I asked the question earlier about response time.
Thanks, Mike.
So I was thinking along the same lines. It's easy to think about what affects me, like personally or anything else, but the big picture, I think we've got to step back and look at the big picture.
Well, personally, I'd rather get voted out for saving your life than keep a job.
Amen. A freaking amen.
So I guess the question would be to defer to the department heads, would you rather have more employees or more pay? What's the priority? Is that fair?
They have to pay their money right now, they
I'm not
can't get the
trying
employees.
I'm just asking a question.
Like he said, his comment was he's lost 3 this month and he don't have any prospects.
So is there a
To
middle
replace
ground? That's all I'm trying to figure out, is there a middle ground? And I know both the department heads sitting right there very well, but is there a middle ground?
When you say 2 of the trucks had 300,000 miles on it, and another one the newest one had 80,000?
Yeah, I think that's right. We need to do whatever.
You know, we paid some 4,000, there's no middle.
No, I don't think there is.
Thank you.
And I will say, that's a good point, but the reason that we have these mileage trucks is due to more to availability of being able to get a truck, more so than not being able to afford it.
We haven't necessarily done a poor job of budgeting.
Yeah, we're not-
Just
yeah,
the
we just-
lead
we can't
times
get
are,
It's taken 3 years to get a truck.
Yeah.
We ordered today, it's 3 years.
yeah.
We've got,
So is it one on order?
$300 and something thousand for the truck, but nothing in it.
We're talking 3 years. You got it?
We have 2 coming in December that we ordered 3 years ago.
And somebody made the comment, it's 3 years away, why spend it now? Well, we've had trucks ordered for 3 years that we're just getting. You have to keep that rotation. If you stop ordering trucks this year, in 3 years, we're not gonna have trucks, and they're all gonna be tore up and broke down. You have to keep that ratio. Just like with the sheriff's department, he has a fleet of patrol vehicles, and every year, we buy anywhere from 3 to 6 patrol vehicles because there's a rotation. If we stop buying the patrol vehicles, just all together to say, nope, we don't have money to buy vehicles this year, then 1 or 2 or 3 years down the road, all of those are gonna break down and tear up at the same time, and they're gonna have no vehicles to drive. Because you have to be consistent on certain things that you have to buy and plan for the next year and the year after and the year after that. Commissioner Shelby, do you have any input for us?
I'm gonna be around that 145, 148.
Can I say something that might help y'all figure out how to do this? I just sit here and listening to the EMS and I see my council here, I really love that. I don't mind if my taxes go up 25 or 30 bucks. I don't care. Take it and deal with these people. And I don't know what everybody's salary is higher up in our government in Wright County. Cut them. Give them a decrease in pay and make the money work. But, you know, I don't want, I mean, if I'm understanding what you're telling me, my taxes are gonna go up over $100,
That's, you know, I don't care who kicked what down the road. Y'all can do something else. I'm willing to do 25. I'll kick in 30 bucks to help him and help them. But, you know, you guys got to figure this out. I'm willing. I don't know if everybody else is willing to pay that much, but to take us all collectively. I mean, I asked, why do I pay $5 a month for my, on my water bill? I think it is something to pay for the trash. And I'm going, you know, that's a lot of money y'all are throwing in $5 a piece to all those people. So if you can't do something with my 25, 30 bucks I'm going to give you, and my increase, you guys gotta do something about it. I mean, think about it. Put somebody up top and give it to these people so
Any other conversation from the commissioners? Were you finished? Okay. Budget Committee? Mr. Chairman?
I'll say, we've had some vocal ones about where they're gonna be at. I'll not vote for anything in the 140, 150 range.
I won't need it.
So we may have a stalemate,
I mean, it's, you know, it's not a matter of, you know, it's what we've got to do. I mean, I may not be voted in next time, but I was voted in to do the best job. To do the bidding for the county, and if I let the county go bankrupt, I did not do my job. And, you know, that's where we're headed if we don't take care of this stuff now. I mean,
the comptroller's office come in and took over Van Buren County a couple of years ago because they weren't funding their government.
They were now.
Commissioner McCormick? Commissioner Golden?
Research the sort of, I mean, I think that we have been very fortunate to live where we do, and compared to a lot of other places, I think our property tax burden is lighter than surrounding areas. I would suggest if you haven't, to research. Look at Cumberland, Putnam, Warren, Van Buren, DeKalb, the counties that touch us. Just look and see where they're at.
DeKalb County's had a 75-cent increase in the last 2 years because they couldn't fund their government, and they still need more.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
It's coming.
I mean, and again, I'm assuming that most everybody in here is property tax, or property owners. I think the last number I heard was 28%. 28% of we got 28,000 people live in White County, and 28% are property owners. So it's a whole deeper philosophical question, but in my opinion, property tax is the most unfair tax out there. A sales tax.
Sales tax is the.
So just so everybody in here knows, I'm beating a dead horse, but we had a referendum. The city of Sparta, if you buy something in the city of Sparta, you pay 9.75% tax, okay? So if you buy something in the county outside the city limits, the sales tax rate is 9.25, okay? That 0.5% difference, the city of Sparta collects 100% of that difference, okay? I went and spent money out of my own pocket and had flyers made. Went to fire hall breakfast, went door to door, knocked on door, try to educate people, get people to see. We had a referendum. That's something we can't adjust as a county commission. We can't adjust that sales tax rate, okay? So we presented that to the voters. If we match the city's 9.75, which is what Cookville, McMinnville, everywhere else is, then we get, the county would collect their 50% of that that tax revenue, which is about 10 cents. You've heard us talking about pennies on this tax rate. It equates to about 10 pennies on that tax rate. That referendum failed, okay? 60% against, 40% for. I feel like we reached 40% of the people that went and voted, okay? So, and the reason is because somebody went in there and they look at it and it says increase the sales tax rate from 9.25 to 9.75. Well, that's ridiculous. No. Right? But that's a fair tax that everybody pays. People coming in here that's traveling through, going to Virgin Falls or wherever else, they stop by something at the grocery store, they go to Walmart, everybody pays it, right? 28% of the people in this county are paying this property tax. It's the most unfair tax, but it's what we've got to work with. It's the only tax that your county commission can do anything with. If we do anything with the sales tax, it has to go to a vote. It has to go to a referendum. We tried that twice. Three times. Three times. We put it on the ballot 3 times, and it failed all 3 times.
And it was, when we run it, it was about $800,000 in revenue that we had received.
Per month.
So I have a question. What about the wheel tax that got voted in? Wasn't that for the county employees?
It was for the health insurance. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that for all the county employees?
Yeah, and last year, the money that, I'm gonna throw a number out, check and correct me, but the last couple of budget cycles, the funds from the wheel tax fell short of funding that mandate by $400,000 to $500,000. So we had to pull $400,000 or $500,000 more out of property tax money to make up the difference.
So that's never gonna go away. Once the wheel tax is enforced, it's gonna stay.
Yeah, that's another one that got voted. That's another one that got voted. And if it wasn't there, then we would have, like, let's say that we put out a referendum to do away with the wheel tax. And everybody goes in and votes and does away with the wheel tax. That, we still are mandated, we still have a mandate to pay a certain percentage of county employees' health insurance. So now that money, instead of coming from that wheel tax, coming off people that own vehicles and tags, that's another burden that property owners are going to have to pay.
Well, I was told that if we voted that in, that, the property tax would go up.
At that time, I'm sure that was true. At that time.
The property tax would not go up to fund insurance.
Hold on just a second. We're about to wrap up open discussion. First, to your point, there's no commissioner left on this commission that was there when the wheel tax was voted. I know, but we can't control whatever was told. There's 7 new commissioners here in their first term and none left from when the wheel tax was put in. But we're going to wrap up open discussion and you guys will have a shot at public comment. Is that it? Chairman? Director Markham? Okay. All right, we'll wrap up our open discussion and we'll move on to public comment. If there's anybody that would like to speak to the budget committee and the full commission, if you'll come up and state your name. And if you wouldn't mind, give us your address and then we can probably correlate who your county commission is based on your address.
Bob's, okay. I'm Robert Taylor, 616 Brookmead, Sparta. I just want to say, I want to try to clear up something that I think a lot of people here don't understand. When you got your assessment, that assessment was done by the state, not Junior Jones. That was done by the sales of the houses around you that were comparable to your house. My house, let's take my house. I bought it 7 years ago, this one that I'm in now. I paid $274,000 for it. My new assessment's $505,000. Now, my assessment went up 93%. That does not mean my taxes are going up 93%. You don't understand that. A lot of people don't get that. Our tax rate.
The wheel tax is going to keep the property tax.
I'll talk about wheel tax if you want. I was in every wheel tax meeting there was. I was one against it. Now I'm for it, I'll tell you what. But your assessment is done by the state. Now, our old tax number is 205. Our old tax number is 205 with this assessment, but after it's figured out what our houses are worth, it's gonna be $1.21.
Maybe.
Yes,
Maybe.
around $1.21. These guys wanna raise it, if we give them everything they want, they wanna raise it 50 cents, right?
Yes.
So it'd be $1.71 will be our tax rate, which will raise our taxes approximately 40%. Now, let me tell you something. When it comes to police and fire, we can't short ourselves. I always was a guy, give police and fire what they need within reason, and let's talk about everything else. But you have, with our population exploding 30%, we have to have police and fire protection. I watched every minute of this budget committee's meetings since this started. Thank you, gentlemen, for every job you've done. You've done unbelievable. Commissioners, you need to be either at these meetings or watching them online so you can give your input. You can't come in here and vote no and not even know what these guys have done. It's so important for you, not on the budget committee, to know what's happening here because you're voting for it. So please, the rest of these meetings they have, you get every one of them or watch them online. You can watch every one of these meetings online on YouTube. But I had a couple questions. I think, in my mind, the pay raises are slightly high for the employees. I negotiated many contracts for UPS. The last pay raises, as I understand, what I saw in these meetings was 3% last year, 5% the previous 2 years. Now you want to give them 15%. I think that's a little bit heavy, little. Plus you want to give them their comp pay for how many years they're here. You want to start that. That's a new comp pay they want to start. My wife worked at Tech. She worked there a long time. She just retired from there. She only made $14 an hour, and that's considered a great job. These county employees are making pretty good money. Now, I agree, everybody needs to make more because every time we pay a bill or go to the grocery store, it costs more than it used to. But the same cost is involved for the sheriff and the fire department. Every time they do anything, they try to keep employees, it costs more money. So realize, if they get everything they need to increase all of this, what needs to be done, they're increasing our taxes about 40%. That might be a little high. For me personally, it's $56 a month. $56 a month, they're gonna kill me. I'm on a set income. I've been retired 16 years. I have to figure out where I'm gonna get another $56 a month. But you know what, some police and fire protection, I'll pay it. But we are behind, folks. We are so far behind. I wish you would have watched every one of these meetings this budget committee went through and see the position these fire departments are in. These fire departments are coming up here and asking these guys to double their budget. And that's not buying new trucks.
Mr. Taylor, I hate to cut you off.
3 minutes, okay.
Yep, sorry, sir.
That's not buying new trucks,
We're gonna spread the love just a little bit.
running what they get. That's keeping running what they get, so. What we don't do here this year, you ain't gonna believe the numbers of what needs to be done in the fire department. We're running 20-year-old equipment, so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
My name is Pete Tanish. I'm relatively new here to Sparta, 3 years. And you, sir, is what got me wound, no, I shouldn't say wound up. I was wound up earlier today because I looked at last month's meeting minutes. And you bring up that Park and Rec director. If I understood that right, you guys have approved a position for Parks and Rec director, is that correct?
No, it's,
You're looking towards it.
it is where the budget committee left off, it's currently here if it were approved right now.
My point is, on page 4 of last month's meeting minutes, someone asked, what is his duties and responsibilities? An HR person will write it up. You're approving a position that these people are going to pay for the next 20 years, 30 years, and you don't even know what he's going to do. line item in your budget, I understand, for miscellaneous, $107,000. I believe the Treasury Department got in trouble because they didn't put a check number on a check, they were just throwing money out. Miscellaneous is slush fund, folks. And police, emergency system, firemen, I love you guys. Don't get me wrong. You guys are working, I would not do anything that you do. When I was a kid, I watched the FBI with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. out the old timers, remember, black and white. My dream was to become an FBI agent, and at that time, there was two ways to become an FBI agent. You either had to have a degree in business, or you had a degree in criminology. When I went to college, I thought, I want to be in criminology in case FBI don't work out. I want to be at midnight running around, no, I don't want to do that. I made my choice. And life is full of choices. And there's consequence for every choice you make, whether it's a good choice or a bad choice, but there is a consequence. The consequence for you gentlemen, fine gentlemen, of staying here in White County, you may have grown up or you may have moved, I don't know. But the consequence is, you're not going to live like this gentleman said, the prices in Walmart are going up, they got to go up. You're not going to keep in contact with that. You're not going to be a lawyer. You made a choice of whatever X amount of dollars. I got two sons, both of them college graduates. One chose to go to Washington, D.C. and work. He just bought a house. My other son stayed in Lynchburg, Virginia. He makes 1/3 of what my son in Washington makes. He's looking at a house 1/3 the price of what he made. It's all relative. You know, the gentleman that was sitting here earlier, he said his price went up $45,000 on his taxes. Stop and think. You made the comment about you have to do everything right for the people in this county. Think, just think. 45,000, $450 times, if it went to 2010 or 205, that's $825 a month. This gentleman can afford $56 a month. But if you divide 3% COLA that the elderly gentleman was probably going to get from Social Security, and you say, nah, maybe he's making $2,000 on Social Security, that's $600 a year. Divide that by 12, that's the $50. That gentleman will not be able to have his medicine, have his bread, have his milk. You're taking it all away from him. And it's not because of you fine gentlemen, don't believe me. I believe in getting a fire truck or, emergency vehicle. You're right, you gotta have them.
So your math was wrong. His taxes will go up $225 a year, total, a year.
On 45,000
Yes, sir.
increase in the assessment.
Yes, sir. Yes. 225 a year, not 800 a month.
I thought it was 45,000 divided by 100.
That gives you,
Go ahead.
45,000 divided by 100 gets you your assessment rate times 1.21 and
No,
1.7.
the assessment rate was up 45,000, you said.
So
You said it went from 59,000 to 105.
Correct, so he's 40.
on 25% of it.
He pays taxes on 25% of
the assessed
that.
value.
For
And then,
residential.
so 45,000
Okay, irregardless.
divided by, no, it's a big difference. I mean, you're saying 800 a month and I'm saying 200 a
It
year.
is, you're absolutely correct, sir. I'm not gonna.
And that's what we're trying to
All I'm trying to
understand.
say is, you guys gotta look at every line item. You can't have slush funds sitting in county budgets and then sitting there telling people that you gotta pay more. That just is not.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, to those addressing the commission, I've just asked that you address the commission and not the crowd, if that's okay.
Michael Johnson, 193 Honeysuckle Lane. And there's just a couple of points I want to make. I did look at my tax assessment. I got it in the mail 2 days ago. And I was on the phone with my dad, and I'm reading this. 1 month ago, I took a loan out on my house to buy a food trailer my wife and I is going to be bringing around White County. We love White County. That tax assessor assessment was more money than what Regency Bank assessed that house at a month prior. So some of these are just, I don't know where they come up with the numbers. Okay? Another one is, I've been here 4 years at White County. And in 4 years, I've watched the population grow tremendously, which means they have taken farms, broke them down to half-acre lots, 3/4 acre lots. They've built more and more houses. They're building houses where they shouldn't be building houses. How come our income on tax income hasn't gone up? Because if you have 30,000 people living here paying this one price, and I'm sorry, I bought my house right after you guys did the last one. He said 2016, I bought it in 2021. I believe it was. But now you got 40,000 people living here, or let's just use an easy figure, 10,000 new homes built in White County in the last 3 years. I'm sure that's a low number. Property taxes to the county should have come up. Where did the money go?
When new construction comes in like that, the personal property taxes that the businesses charge gets reduced. When, in this 5-year cycle, in this window, the state says our money pretty much stays the same. So when farms get broke up and sold, then they reduce the personal property taxes, and it brings it right back down. That's the state, and I'm saying that correctly, Chad, is that right?
Can you,
Can you
Do you-
with that a little bit, like the ratio?
But you're assessing this on each individual
It's less,
house.
we're not, I agree with you, we should be getting more money with those new houses. You've got a 100-acre farm it's on Greenbelt.
Yes.
And then now it's got 100 houses on it.
do you think you could, I know.
But the personal property tax gets reduced, so we don't bring any more income.
So
And this
you're
gets
saying on that
readjusted.
100-acre green belt, I buy an acre or 5 acres. I build a $230,000 home. You're gonna tax me $900 a year. Well, that home, you're getting $1,000 a year out of me that you weren't getting on that acre or 5 acres. So that's where I'm having a real tough time with you increasing my property taxes when I know the property taxes had to have increased in this county already, the revenue portion of it.
So the revenue has increased, so we would be looking at just a little over $200,000 in increased revenue based on this, at the estimated certified tax rate, given all the new construction and all that stuff. And that's just based on where we're at as far as the tax rate. The ratio that Commissioner Hutchins was talking about was something that happens the third year of the reappraisal cycle. And this gets that back to 100%. So in the 2025 tax year, they would be paying 100% of their values on their personal property taxes. So
Well,
that's a kind of a
I
difference.
appreciate that information. I thank you for your time. I hope our elected aldermen will please pay attention to this. I don't understand it all, I agree, but I'm getting ready to retire, be on a fixed income in a little over a year myself. This is huge. Do I sell my house and move somewhere else? I actually have become very fond of White County. But all my life, I've never dug my roots down very deep because I can go where the job is. Now, I'm looking at my future. You know, and so, please, I know the other gentleman brought some good points. I believe there's still some cuts to be made. Yes, it's gonna be tough. Yes, I understand that. I don't think we should be giving a 15% across the board to county employees. Maybe the fire department and the sheriff's department might need a little bit more percentage rate to their employees to get the retention for our emergency personnel. But does our road department, does all of our other employees really need that full 15%?
I'll speak to the highway department. We have CDL drivers, heavy equipment operators that are making $19 an hour.
They could be making 35.
Yeah, I was making 13 when I worked for the county,
How many years?
with my CDL.
How many years ago was that?
That was 3 years ago before I went to work for TDOT. And when I went to work for TDOT, I started making $16 an hour.
What are you making
So
now?
yes, I did go another route, but thank God I'm retired from another state agency after 25 years of service.
So 3 years ago, you were making 16, what are you making now?
With TDOT,
Yeah.
25, a little over 25.
And our $1.70.
Which was, I thought was surprising, because I've never had I worked for a state agency, they've never got paid more than private sector.
Right. I still don't think you're getting paid more than private sector at $25 an hour.
Right.
And this proposal is getting the CDL drivers to $25 an hour. That's what this proposal does. It's
It
getting
just brings them to the same level they could walk out and get a job.
What does Rogers Group's pay them? One of the major trucking industries.
Jerry can probably get us pretty close.
But anyway, that was just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm new here, been here about a year and a half, moved from another state that was very Democrat, really run bad.
Do you care to give us your name and?
Yeah, I was getting to that.
Sorry.
Anyways, my name's Jim Deal, retired law enforcement from New York. I see the good, and I see the ugly. That's the way it is. And all the entities, they need their funds. Police, EMTs, road services. It ain't getting any cheaper out there for anybody. But I want you to tell me, how is my one-year house that I just built go up $156,000? How much am I going to be paying more in taxes? And I'm not the only one. My entire street that was just built, every single one of them. Hell, there's an empty lot this old man bought. He showed me his. It was $21,000 last year. It's $47,000 this year. I don't care what the state says. The state don't control this area. That's why I came here. This is a beautiful area. I came here because it's a beautiful area. I literally waited 15 years of working my ass off to come here because I love this place and I love the way it was run. But if you're gonna let the state say, hey, you can increase mine and everybody else 80 to 100%, I don't wanna hear this 40%, because it ain't 40%. It's 80 to 100% on these people's homes. It ain't right. I know everything's going up in cost, and I know all these services require more money because fuel, trucks, personnel, retirements, everything, it all goes up. But you can't tell me that the big number I want to know is, you have a budget. You had a budget last year. What is your increase percentage-wise for this year's budget?
Well,
what is it? 3%, 8%, 10%?
Well,
I'll come back, after they answer, I'll come back.
No, you can go ahead. We haven't approved the budget yet.
What's
So
your
that's what we're
looking
working
for, though?
on.
What is your basic overall? And like that gentleman discussed earlier, you have 30% more housing here now that you didn't have 5 years ago. So there's more tax base that you're collecting that you should be advocating towards your budget. What is your overall increase from last year's budget to this year's budget? And then that should probably control how much all the appraisals on the houses are going up at a fix.
I'll tell you where I think some of the confusion is, this reappraisal that happens every 5 years is, every 5 years, we have this same conversation. And really, what it boils down to is, they do the reappraisal, it's supposed to be market value. Whether it is or it ain't, doesn't matter. They come in, our rate, property tax rate was $2.05 per, it's 25% of your assessed value. It's based on 25% of the assessed value. It's $2.05 per 100, is that right?
Yeah.
Up to 25% of the assessed value. So, say our rate was $2.05. So they just came in and did this reappraisal, and that's what everybody got, and I did the same thing. When I opened mine up, I was like, what? Holy cow. I mean, it went up 100%. The assessment, it says, okay, this is what your house is worth. How that translates into my property tax is based on whatever that rate is. So then the state says, okay, we did the reappraisal. Now, in order for the county to stay revenue neutral, you don't bring in another penny. It's $1. We think they haven't given it to us, but we think it's going to be $1.21 per 100 up to 25%. It's been $2.05.
Okay.
Okay? So they say to keep everything exactly where it's at, it's $1.21. So let's just say the reappraisal didn't happen. Let's just say it didn't happen, and we were at 205. The things that we're talking about doing, we would be saying, okay, we're going to raise it. We're going to have to raise that rate in order to pay the salaries and to buy the ambulances, buy the patrol cars, and do whatever we would have to do. Let's say we had to raise it to $2.75. The rate in Putnam County, I believe, do you know what it is, Junior? Three? It's three something.
Okay.
It's like
We're getting off base here. This isn't,
No, but
this isn't anywhere near the question that I asked.
I'm trying to get, the point I'm trying to make is that everybody's worked up about how much the assessment went up. It all depends on what we set the rate at.
But it's still not answering the question. I asked you, what's the increase on $156,000 a year in tax?
We have
56 or 150?
156.
On 50 cents at $1.70, it would be $780 a year.
Okay, so my taxes on a house I bought a year ago are now going to go up $780 in 1 year.
If the rate stays at 205.
No, only 170.
On the assessment, just on the assessment. So what I want to know is, you went up 100%, I went up at least 80%. Is every single house and building in this county going up 100 to 80%? Because if it is, then you guys should have a budget of, I don't know, $3-4 million.
That goes back to what I was trying to say, that the property tax is not increasing 100%. The assessed value.
The assessment, yeah, I understand that.
Right.
But
it depends on whatever the
if
rate.
you're talking 100% increase, that means it's double what it was before, which means it's double what the tax is.
No, sir.
No, you don't.
It's not. That's
what
based
I'm
on
not
whatever rate you're
understanding.
setting.
You just told me mine's going up $700-800.
That is half a penny, 50 cents on 156,000. If we keep it at 121, you might go up $50, $70 or something. Like it's about revenue. If we adopt $1.21, you pay virtually no more taxes.
I don't mind tax increases, I understand. I understand why. Like the gentleman said, needing EMS trucks. My father used to sell ambulances, so my brother's fire chief.
Sir, I'd like to get a couple more people.
I understand.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that if mine's going up, I own the house 1 year. If mine's going up 80% in 1 year, what am I gonna be looking at down the road living here? I waited 15 years to come here. And I'm retired, so there ain't no more money. It's what it is.
There's a Board of Equalization that you can petition to see if your home is valued properly. I think if you have an appraisal, I don't.
It was appraised a year ago, in 2023 of November, and now it goes up $156,000 in a year and a half, less than a year.
I mean, that
How is
seems.
that? Just because inflation has driven everything up doesn't make the value of the home what the state wants to say it is.
And like I said, there's a Board of Equalization. We don't have control over that, we only set the rate that you pay.
Okay, but is it fair and equitable to everybody?
Let's move on and get a couple more. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We get,
My name's Bill Dodson. I think my commissioner's about to leave.
how convenient.
1825 Petticoat Road. And, sir, I'm going to be standing here today.
Go out there.
We're not free.
Oh, you can't go out that way.
And I think,
I got a couple.
I moved here in '06. I retired out of Washington DC. I know a little bit about the budget process. My budget was $480 million the last year I was there. If I wanted to build a control tower, an air traffic control tower, I had to go to Congress. Congress looked at me and said, "We know what you want, so what can you live with?" I challenge you commissioners to work on that philosophy. Just because we want it doesn't mean that we need it, okay? I think that our EMS folks need to be fully supported. I think that every employee of the county needs to make a decent wage. I don't have a problem with a reasonable tax increase. But your proposed tax increase is going to cost me over $1,200 a year. So I can live with something less than that. I think 40% is just unreasonable. I think when our sheriff, one of our sheriff's deputies has to work here in government subsidized housing, we need to do something about it. But can we offset that with 4 new vehicles instead of 8? You know? And if we're going to budget for 8 vehicles this year, and that tax rate is based on those 8 new vehicles, are we going to buy another 8 new vehicles next year? Okay? Or can we do 4 this year and set the rate like that and get 4 new next year? I understand they have to be rotated out. Okay?
So the ask was for 6, and we did reduce it to 4.
Okay.
And we basically have to maintain 3 to 4 every single year. That's just the bare minimum.
Understood.
And last year, just to paint a picture for you, last year, we had over $13 million in ask, and we had right at little over $300,000 to fill that $13 million in ask. Every year this has been going on. So I understand, you know budgets, and you know that you can't take care of people and buy things that keep going up in price if you don't adjust what comes in. And that's where we're at. And I understand what you're saying, and I think you would understand the fact that we have been going through and trying to trim everything. And I invite you to come to every single budget meeting and do this so you can see what we do. Because it has been that way.
At 170, I think we've already pulled $1 million worth of ask out.
Over.
At 170.
Okay. Well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your listening to me, and please vote your conscience.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll hear one more member of the public.
My name's Gerald Gray. I've been here about 3 years. District 7, 140 Mallard Drive. I've been listening to a lot of numbers. I pulled a lot of numbers. I've been doing budgets and business for a very long time. And your numbers that I pull from your sites don't add up. Most of the people I've talked to today, I talked about 6. I ran their numbers. Most of them are about 81% on their assessment increase. And most of them will take a drop down to 1.131 to have their tax remain the same. Mine will. Where would we take that much of a drop? So if you go into 170, mine's going to go up about About $50 a month, $600. Doesn't sound like much. When you're on fixed income, it could mean a lot. I mean, do I keep the heat on? Do I buy that extra gallon of milk? What do I do? I'm not saying I have to do that, but there are a lot of people around me that may have to do that. So when we're talking about we're going to serve the county, we got to serve not only the people that protect the county. God bless you all. And I know you need money, and I hope we can give them money. All of it. Because without you, what's the purpose of living here? To be a useless life. So I thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart. But we have to, but I looked at a lot, I looked at budgets, I went back, there are a lot of line items I saw that says other, miscellaneous, very confusing and very misleading. Like, I have a question. I don't know whether this is true or not, but according to this paper, I feel it's supposed to be White County proposed budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. There would have been an increase in salaries from the end of 2023 until June 2025. That total increase in salaries would have been $7,000. Is that correct? I believe it is 7,000. So, yeah, let's see, $1,640,000 in the general fund for whatever the first, I don't know what that encompasses. Highway and Public Works was $170,000, and schools were $5,382,256. So my question is, it sounds like there's been a lot more increase in salaries and wages than you guys are giving credit for, and now here we go again.
Sir, I would add that it sounds like the number that you're pulling out includes the school system. And any of those figures, you would need to go talk to the Board of Education. We wouldn't have, the school board, we wouldn't have any control over theirs. But in general fund, last year, we did a 3% increase for employees, which would be about $300,000. I think you're also including the schools.
Well, no, the 1.6 is just on the general fund. The schools down here has a separate number. I mean, this is the White County proposed budget, I would assume, that you guys deal with that also, is that correct?
Is that just a total in pay?
Yeah.
So you would have to subtract from the year before to get...
Well, no, that is, I did subtract these, I can understand what was this year to the next year, and how I get to that number, yes.
So is a $7,000 increase in pay total for the whole?
Well, the average for the general fund was, if these numbers were correct, that's assuming that you actually had a $11 million budget this year.
Sounds, for the general fund?
Yeah.
That's correct.
That would have been, the average increase would have been $8,724 on just salaries. On other costs, it would have been another additional $46,000 per employee, whatever that is, I have no idea. But anyway.
So $8,000 increase in the general fund, how many employees do we have in the general fund?
188 according to that.
So,
which is two more than you had 3 years ago, 186.
So you see $8,000 increase in the general fund over 166 employees.
Per employee.
$8,000 per employee.
Per employee, yes.
We increased $8,000 per employee.
That's what this shows.
3%.
They're your numbers, so I invite you to take a look at your numbers, because what you told me tonight don't match. It doesn't work. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's anybody out here that wants to pay $500 or $600. You were talking about, it'll only be $200 per household. I don't think so. Closer to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1,000 is where you're at right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that'll conclude our public comment. The Budget Committee will meet again in this room on June the 2nd. That will be following the purchasing committee, right, Chad? And I'd entertain a motion to adjourn from the committee.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Following regular meetings.